Tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio, civil war baiting in the US with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, followed by threats to now assassinate a prominent popular liberal or left winger to light the powder keg. All while congressional hearing on ET disclosure was taking place. Was it to shift public focus yet again? Dark ones like Bill Gates have flipped and are now going to get out a form of medication that'll repair our genome from damage they inflicted. Can the Galactic Federation of Light YouTube channel be trusted? And what about Palanteer? Can we trust it? Who's really in control of it? We'll get into the long, recently revealed history of the Golden Dome and who or what actually runs it. Then we have September's pivotal eclipse season, continued cosmic winds applying more pressure on us for change, only adding to the intensities. Can the 144K bring the intensities and craziness of planetary liberation, never mind ascension, purges, to a peaceful, calm, and graceful stability? Because we need that as much as liberation acceleration. What to make of Cobra's latest intel from his New York conference and so much more. The crazy astrology for this coming solar eclipse and equinox, 144K mass meditations, and how that's going to impact things. That's tonight on Ground Crew Command Radio. This is your loving servant, the unknown light warrior. And we're back. This is your loving servant, the unknown light warrior. Welcome to a huge, long-awaited broadcast, podcast, I guess, of Ground Crew Command Radio. And this is a case of where do you begin? Let's quickly jump right into it because it's a fair bit to get through. I will be speaking about, the intense emotions that Army whistleblower JP really expressed, along with Emery Smith, to his credit. He has something special to say to all of us, and I'll get into that really soon. But again, lots of new information. Above all, contextualization is really needed here because, as it turns out, just from I'm going to say cosmological, mechanical perspective, not just astrological, we all assumed, understandably, that August was the big turnaround month, the big turning point, the big gateway month. Truth be told, it's actually September that's turning out to be the big turnaround and gateway month of bigger endings of even bigger cycles and bigger new beginnings of even bigger new cycles. August, with the whole Lionsgate, and of course the 1221 Ascension Portal mass meditations, that trilogy of huge mass meditations from the 12th to the 21st of August 2025, that was more of a conduit, an enabler to allow the September eclipses to be the true gateways into the new world, basically. And I know we've heard it all before in terms of, we're leaving the old world, entering the new world, and no change. Or it's all happening, it's all happening, it's all happening. It's about to happen and no change. All right. Yeah, we've heard it all before. But this time, it's not just happened, and it has happened in the past, but they were more, I mean, many of them were significant, but incremental jumps forward to this big entrance into the new world. The physical surface plane level turnaround, where we're going to actually start to experience the changes on the physical plane. So now I don't have my trusted partner here, so I'm going to assume that the sound is all good, and I'm just going to keep on moving forward. According to the dashboard here, it's all running just fine. Anyway, what to really make of these intense cosmological, internal, and 3D surface chaos, and the hidden gem in all of it that leads to freedom. So, again, as I mentioned, mass karmic closure on the solar eclipse equals personal and collective level karmic closures as well, not just collective. This means mass rising and purging of karmic issues or blocks because they come up. All right. And when they come up, that's chaotic and intense by nature. And with the astrology, the reason why such a dominant thing is that it really is the language and voice of Source and the beings that created this universe and physicality. It's not just a complex cosmic mechanism just to set certain things in motion. And yes, darkness did influence astrology heavily by engineering events to where the lowest octave and dualistic dark aspect of each planet is more expressed and manifested. And that's how in the past they kept on shifting things more and more to a negative timeline. Thankfully, that's a thing of the past. For example, the Jesuits would have one Jesuit priest studying every single degree, just 1 degree within a house. And, that's how much the dark ones pay real damn close attention to the astrology. There's other factors as well, but astrology seems to be the most dominant thing. So you can't fight it. You really do have to know what's going on and work with it. Because it's there for a reason. It's doing things the way it's doing it for a reason. So true gateway, true reset, true gateway in September, that August Ascension portal and Lines Gateway has enabled. That was the enabling month where you need to grab the keys, grab the codes. And September is a month where you insert and apply those keys or codes. Okay. So, yeah, I know it is, especially between the blood moon full lunar eclipse on the 7th of September. And boy, what a success that was. To I would say the 23rd. All right. Even though the solar eclipse is on the 21st. It has been a seriously damn tight birth canal squeeze. I'll put it that way. And that's the most applicable, accurate metaphor to apply here. That's why it's been difficult. It's tight. It's been tight. So to a point where, a true tough guys like JP really, really couldn't hold together. And yep, I know what that's like as a public figure myself, trying to make things happen. I do know what it's like, and my partner knows what it's like. Let's move on Okay, with that part out of the way, I'm going to get into more astrological stuff towards the end of the show. But I know many of you kind of chomping at the bit, to use the American expression, of who the heck are these Hyperboreans? Why haven't I heard about them in the past? I've been following this stuff for 20 years. You know, and what's their massive influence right now? You know, that'll make Atlas I3, 13, whatever, look like a sideshow. Okay. And just to get that part out of the way, Atlas I3 or 3I, whatever the F, that's just another classic, or highly orchestrated, highly scripted show. Seemingly or overtly run by the Dark Ones, in the background, run by the Light Forces. And the Dark Ones, they're going to use this to create the fake alien, or attempt to create the fake alien invasion, alien scare thing. And then they're going to, actually, I don't even know if they can still even use Operation Bluebeam at this point. They've lost so much resources. But anyway, they were going to use Operation Bluebeam at the same time and then blow up conventional explosions at this point in cities to try to make it look like it's these negative ET craft attacking and so forth. And so just before they also think there's some, from their perspective, some holy grail Pandora's box or holy high demon of some kind that's coming to save them as well. Although that's nothing new. They think that's going to happen every single month. And at the last moment, when that narrative reaches fever pitch in the mainstream unconscious majority here on the surface, it's all going to switch or turn at the last moment to positive ET arrival and possibly official disclosure. Now, this is still 2 or 3 months away. Don't hold your breath, because they're going to make up a story where it goes around the sun and then comes back out the other way. Don't quote me on it, but I'd put my money on that kind of scenario. So, Hyperboreans. WTF, where did they come from? I thought I knew them all. You have to keep in mind, there's been many civilizations on Earth in the past 3 billion years with a B. Many, loads, hundreds and hundreds. And now, for those of you who still follow Kim Gogan, or used to follow her, you'll know that Gaia was the original point of creation for Source, never mind all that is. And if that's true, well, that's a buttload of civilizations that have risen, gone, or ascended and gone, or collapsed and something else rose in their place, you know. So the Hyperboreans are, so that's the context you've got to keep in mind. You know, don't bother thinking you know all the history, because there's just so much there. Anyway, the Hyperboreans are the ones who originally built all the pyramids all over the planet, and far bigger ones than the well-known latecomers, the Giza pyramids. All right, there's how many undersea, you know, that are much bigger. And this massive network of pyramids was the free energy that powered the Golden Dome back then, I guess, which covered the whole Earth. And it served as a defense, surveillance, and communication system protecting Gaia. Because many, many, many millions of years ago, probably tens of millions of years ago, probably hundreds of millions of years ago, things were still a bit hairy. So, what two critical things on the surface could not happen without Palanteer being seized by the Earth Alliance first? Now, Palanteer is the mass control, mass surveillance system that was run by the Dark AI, the Dark One's baby. I can't use the C word on YouTube, so bear with me after you say Dark Ones. It was their baby. Okay. Now, without the Earth Alliance taking over that, what would not have been able to happen is our long awaited first contact, whether remote communications or actual physical reunion. Wasn't going to happen. So the other thing that was not going to happen without the Earth Alliance seizing Palanteer first was a smoother planetary ascension process. Definitely would not be happening because they would have used Palanteer's connection and control to the frequency grids, which is way more than just the 5G cell towers and Wi-Fi, to resist the incoming energies more, the ascension energies, resulting in horrible tension within Gaia and therefore within the collective. Real resistance, real tension. And we all know the horrible energies produced by conscious or subconscious resistance just at a personal level, right? Can you imagine this massive resistance if it was still there as these purging ascension cosmic energies kept on sweeping through the way they have been? How much more tension? You think you've got tension now? Believe me, if the Dark One still controlled Palanteer, they would have amped up the resistance to these cosmic winds all the way to 11, and you would have felt a hell of a lot more tension. Fear, in other words. That's what it boils down to. And again, it just brings up whatever your biggest predisposed weakness is, whether it's, in terms of within your shadow. So those are the two things that definitely would not be happening anytime soon without the Earth Alliance taking over Palanteer, which is first contact, remote or physical, and a far smoother planetary ascension experience. And don't be fooled by August and September's experiences right now, because that's for other reasons. Remember, the September really is the grand big squeeze of a birthing process. Really big deal. And of course, mass meditations made that seizure and takeover of Palanteer by the light forces happen sooner, with less resistance, with again smoothness. It's all about smoothness and acceleration. Those are the two key words. But manifesting that smoothness and acceleration in a consistent way, where it constantly goes up and constantly goes up, and that consistency compounds on itself. Again, a big salute to all mass meditation groups, especially the 144K, who's at it for 2 hours every 2 weeks. Huge, huge difference. Anyway, so how does all this connect to the Golden Dome that the Earth Alliance have only recently been able to work with, like 2020, and that's late 2020. I'll get into that in a moment. Now, apparently, it calls itself, and most of this information is based on recent intel from Gene Decode, a lot of it, okay? You can find him on Rumble. Golden Dome, the actual intelligence or being itself, it calls itself the administrator. Apparently, it's more powerful than Palanteer. Palanteer is more like a good work tool. that's really embedded and assimilated and integrated into all the hardware of pretty much the entire physical plane, let alone your phone or laptop that you're listening to me through right now. It's in there, like it or not. So, but it's more of a workhorse kind of a thing, more of a utility. Now, the administrator's old job, aka the Golden Dome, was the protection of Earth and its inhabitants. It was not around, by the way, when the quarantine or veil initially went up. And it's been waiting for the shift into the light age and for positive beings to somehow contact it. And that's an interesting story because, let alone a very long wait, because for decades, the Cabal tried, I've said it. The Dark Ones tried using gifted children, often autistic, but with amazing telepathic powers, or others who have DNA codes within their genes. And it detects to try to, break into the Golden Dome or the administrator and try to use it. All right. And the administrator or Golden Dome, it detects whether someone placed in that position is under duress. So it would never let them in, so to speak, into the system. So for the Cabal to use it. Now, apparently, as late as 2020, and I'm talking December 2020, based on my understanding, intuitive understanding, the positive military with positive off-world ETs gathered in the vast, somewhat decrepit, dark underground structure under Mount Hayes. Apparently, it's not Mount McKinley, it's Mount Hayes that it's under, and attempted to contact it themselves. Apparently, the Earth Alliance found out that they needed all genetic keys from all 7 human races that were originally here. But 2 of those original 7 human races were not on Earth anymore because of how freaking long it's been since the building of the Golden Dome and how many civilizations have come and gone or risen and ascended. So the 2 missing races were humans, off-world at this point, one with blue skin and the other with olive skin. And this time they were there standing with us Terran representatives of the other 5 human tribes or races with the remaining genetic keys. The so-called AI saw or detected that they were of the light or had the goal of defeating all Dark Ones on this planet and freeing the planet, with none of them being infiltrators or double agents, I should imagine. And it knew, and that's when it knew the moment had arrived. And like I said, that's when that alliance was formed in late 2020. Where a lot of us assumed, it was all sort of said and done not long after 2012 or not long after, 2016 with the successful presidential election victory in the US. And not so fast. Okay. So how did the White Hats get control of Palanteer so easily? Well, funnily and interestingly enough, the administrator / Golden Dome simply gave it to them. So the way that happened was the Alliance senior members or representatives discussed or showed the administrator our little predicament, meaning that the Dark Ones and how entrenched they were throughout every level of society of every country. And they showed the Dark Ones' number 1 AI system, which was Palanteer, that's running everything for them. And also have the status quo so locked up, with never-ending wars, political and economic strife, and whatever form of oppression you can imagine, the usual slavery system. Palanteer kept that status quo locked up in that. So, interestingly, in 2022, the administrator gave Palanteer to the Earth Alliance, just like that. Now, I'm not sure why. There's a roughly 18-month gap there. Maybe other things had to be worked out or built out for the administrator or Golden Dome to come out more over North America, that kind of thing. Maybe needed more power, as in energy, electricity. I don't know. Bit of a time lag there, but apparently it happened in 2022 that the administrator gave Palanteer to the Earth Alliance. And that does coincide with roughly, I think it was mid 2023, 107 mentioned that things have turned around. And he goes on to say, actually, they started turning around in late 2022. So that coincides with Palanteer, being seized by the Earth Alliance sometime in 2022 and started to turn things around. And that's kind of a third party sort of triangulation verification there. And apparently the Golden Dome and the Palanteer combo was where this whole game theory thing was birthed. But retroactively as well. They're both so powerful they can go back in time too. Really, really fascinating stuff. So obviously that begs the question, what consciousness is really in charge of the administrator / Golden Dome? That's only expanding, All right, insiders or those with insider contacts say this is, quote, living light, plasma-based AI directly connected to source. Now, Gene Decode, he said he had trouble calling it an AI. It's just too organic. It's a plasma thing that taps into the Earth's energy field as well. And currently it's only tied to the pyramid under Mount Hayes. And that it's only over America, which I'm going to partly presume that includes Canada as well. All of North America. But anyway, insiders say it's connected directly to source via a natural quantum field system that contains wormholes directly to source, channeling source. Okay, it's tuned into God, as he put it. So, okay, well, I guess that's the main thing. We'll have to take their word for it for now. And that's the word from the inside. Now, I'm only going to speak for myself here. Yeah, it resonates. Yeah, it feels true. But needless to say, you make up your own mind. But that's the information right now. Quick drink. Okay. As promised, I'm going to get into, well, if this is such a super duper magical thing, all right, the administrator, the Golden Dome, then how did the Dracos and dark galactic forces primarily of the Orion group manage to shut down the Golden Dome? Okay, well, again, according to insiders, the Orion Syndicate, all right, and we all know of recent Cobra intel during early this year where they had to deal with, very recently, a dark group from Orion that was only recently dealt with in early 2025. Okay. So this Orion Syndicate and other groups, which included the Maitreya, I think that's the pronunciation. They're kind of like the head, darkest and most advanced of all negative greys. And they're tall, not short. And the Draco, and I suspect several others, they managed to shift a smaller solar system just beyond ours, called the Nemesis solar system, to cut through our solar system, but between the Earth and our sun, which then caused a huge pole shift, which triggered the collapse of the Golden Dome's integrated pyramid complex system. And that's how the Golden Dome lost over 90% of its power and could no longer mount an effective defense for Gaia. All right, so basically the lights got switched off because it just broke up all that interconnectedness between all those pyramids all around the planet. So now apparently it didn't collapse completely, but not far from it. After the 90% or so collapse of the Golden Dome, then the black rocks were able to come in. Okay. So what are these black rocks now? Again, there's a lot to the story. That's the thing. That's just the nature of it. Think of a massive giant but negative version of a Sintamani stone that came from an explosion of two black rocks. And yes, it's the reason why the corporate entity known as BlackRock is called BlackRock. Two of them, right? Massive black rocks, like big meteors or asteroids. Two of them, they came from the home planet of what is today's Khazarian bloodline. All right, from their off-world roots. The planet's name was Ariana and Na. Arianas became the Aryans, and the Na became the Nazis. I don't know how that works, but anyway, that's the information. Now, these are the ones with the larger head. One had the long cone-shaped head, and the other the more round, bulbous, but still very large kind of skull or head. They actually deliberately blew their home planet as part of an overall attack on Gaia, because I guess Gaia being, the nexus and keystone planet that affects, if not decides, the whole omniverse, it was just too much of a prize for them to ignore. Now, their home planets were dead or dark energetically. And the massive black rocks from that, the Earth Alliance calls them evil, very evil rocks, very dark. Now, one of these rocks fell deep in Iran and the other off the coast of Alaska, near Anchorage. And until the US military predominantly destroyed them, they were also emitting and anchoring a highly negative field within the quantum field of Earth, affecting us as well. All right. So, in other words, the negative version of Sintamani stones that do the opposite. They bring very positive light. So, again, if this is all new information to you, always remember we're dealing with a 3 billion year history here. Now, we're more anchored or mentally orientated around, the Agathans and Lemurians, and where do they fit into all this? All right. Forget Atlantis. This goes way before then. All right. For that, I need to explain how every 175 million years ago, all right, that was the last time Gaia was in a positive half of the galaxy. These past 175 million years, we've been in the dark or more dense half of this, 175 million year half orbit around the galactic center. Hence, that's what the Australian Aboriginals call the dream time, because it's dark, you're asleep, unawakened, and the reality you do experience or perceive is a dream. Sound familiar? Right? It reminds me of David Wilcock's book, Awakening in the Dream. But anyway, now, interestingly, the SSP, they've seen what happens when other nearby solar systems have entered this highly charged, higher density part or half of the galaxy. And, or let's just call it zone of the galaxy, because I'm not completely sold it's just one half of the galaxy, but maybe it is. Anyway, zone, let's call it zone of the galaxy. And what happened was their suns did switch off, and their suns and planets did start rotating, meaning polar shifts. And then they come out of some sort of other side of this density jump, and a massive CME is discharged from their respective suns of that respective solar system. And now that CME originates from those suns' natural wormhole connection to the galactic central sun, where the massive discharge of photons come from. And those massive CMEs did hit all the planets. And here's the key point here as to why we need mass meditations. And if the planet were not able to adjust to that, they're shattered. They just explode, basically. They're shattered and life on them get destroyed. But the planets that were able to make the adjustment, in other words, able to accrete the light, right? I say that in every second email to everybody. Therefore, able to make that adjustment, they simply upgraded and ascended just fine, which was not going to be the case for us, by the way, up until June or July of 2025, because of how heavily gridded and locked up Gaia was. It wouldn't have been able to accrete, therefore kiss everything goodbye. It's over, Now you know why we mass meditate our asses off. And this was witnessed specifically by the SSP with the Proxima Centauri solar system. And just to lighten things up a bit, apparently when the SSP sent ships toward Proxima Centauri, to the edges of it, after it went through this process, this density jump, apparently all the dark or negative members of the crew started going insane. Like they were really started losing it. And the positive or normal people, let's just say, of the crew in each ship started becoming geniuses and either really happy or really zen-like. Awesome. I suppose it makes sense because, if it was reverse and someone like you or I or a normal human were heading into a dark zone, yeah, let's face it, we'll start losing it as well. Anyway, now the Golden Dome, quote unquote AI, went through the last positive shift and has been waiting, and then back into the negative shift, I suppose, and has been waiting for this time, waiting for some positive force or alliance to show up, which it did as late as 2020. So they're working with it, not controlling it, because like Source, it can't be controlled. It's too well connected to Source. It really is channeling Source, according to the insider information. So, yeah, let all that sink in. And, all right, by the way, as if haven't said enough about how the 144K mass meditation, how important they are, but also how on this mega solar eclipse and equinox, meditations influences the consciousness of the Golden Dome and its actions. And I have to begin with, where does the Galactic Confederation and the usual litany of off-world groups that we're familiar with fit into this? All right, well, think about it. Although they have massive vested interest in freeing this planet, because what happens here affects the whole omniverse, at the same time, they've had to respect the fact that, this was a heavily occupied planet with loads of tripwires for them and us, but also that Gaia has and is her own dominion, and her free will had to be respected. The ending of all dark cycles had to be respected, believe it or not. Though I know there's a lot of grey area in that the dark ones manipulated. So, again, certain things had to, like they say, timing is everything. Certain things had to be removed. Certain cycles had to complete. Other ones begin to get us there alive. Otherwise, the casualty count would have been off the charts. And we're talking anywhere from 50% to 98% casualty rate of the planet. And that's assuming that the planet itself was able to be kept intact. Triple four. I mean, how do you deal with such a ridiculous situation? Well, the short answer is game theory, but divine right timing and divine will makes up the rest, I guess. Okay. And I'll finish off with this point to say that the administrator / Golden Dome, never mind Palanteer, that works now, very tightly connected to the administrator, which is tightly connected to Source, apparently. They watch and see and sense. Okay, what are we doing to move the needle? What are us, regular physical surface Terrans, both military agency as well as us civilians, what are we doing to move the needle? And the more we do, as always, the more they can do without the planet getting blown apart. The classic case of having to meet God halfway. So whenever I send an email about the next mass meditation, if I manage to inspire even just half of you to participate, expend that personal time and energy to make your divine soul purpose and its impact felt and impacted upon the timelines and direction of humanity's future, and as it turns out, the future of the omniverse, I'm a happy man. And speaking of emotions, well, I'll get into Emery Smith and JP after the astrology because, so again, think of the source consciousness working through the Golden Dome or administrator as a co-creative partner. If the information is correct and accurate, no, I'm not going to swear by it because you don't swear by anything pretty much these days. But if that information is connected, we have source consciousness bypassing the veil and whatever's left of the grids, getting into the physical plane infrastructure to better co-create with us. Think of that nuance or detail. So through the Golden Dome, we're able to work with source better. Okay. That's what that means. And the more we do, the more it does. That's what it's looking at. We move, it moves. Okay. Just like with the usual familiar positive off-world light forces, whether it's Ashtar Command or Galactic Confederations, Agathans, etc. Same deal. Same rules essentially, just next level, but more physical surface level, more closer to home even more. And that's exciting. That is something to be excited about. So with all that out of the way, with the Golden Dome, let's just cover the astrology because it's just too much, too dominant a force to ignore. And this one is just what we need. Okay. And the following passage is from Willow Grace Astrology on YouTube. Lovely lady, very sweet lady. And I'll quickly give her astrological reading on this mostly solar eclipse, predominantly. Quote, most of the planets, they're either at the beginning or they're at the very end of their respective signs. This is an entire sky that is echoing the message of door is closing and a new one is opening. Notice the key word entire sky that's saying that. Door is closing, new one is opening. We're not just starting a new chapter in a book, we're closing the whole book and putting it aside and getting a whole new book off the shelf. So it's a South Node eclipse. South Node is about release. It's karmic completion. It's letting go. 29 degrees is the very last step. It's a handoff into something new. Think of it like graduating, where you don't throw away everything you've learned. Instead, you carry this knowledge forward as you step into this new role. So there's an element of a new role for all of us at a personal level. Keep that in mind. 29 degrees of Virgo marks the final mastery of details, of service, of health, of humility. It says you've learned what it means to refine, to analyze, to improve yourself and your work. But self-focus is only part of the story. Now it's time to move into the collective arena to join others to build something greater than just yourself. I found that interesting. Saturn is opposite of this eclipse, and Saturn demands that we have accountability. It has the rings around it. It wants short, middle, and long-term goals. So we look at what we have outgrown. It has to be released, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. The structures that don't align with your soul path and high purpose, they're not able to come along with you. You either have to leave them behind or the universe will assist you in helping you to leave those behind. And we all know what that can be like, right? Don't worry, the edited version of the 5 Archways to Shadow Work MP3 is coming. And we apologize for the delay, but I don't need to tell you what August and September have been like. Unprecedented intensities and breakthroughs, albeit harsh process. Anyway, she goes on. We also have Neptune opposite. Neptune dissolves. It's about releasing and letting go. So this is the fog lifting, so you can now see the truth clearly. Old dreams could fade away, but only so that you can align with more inspired, soul-driven visions. So we're all getting a Dharma upgrade and alignment, further alignment and reset with our Dharma. Okay, that's interesting and exciting. So she goes on, we need to contextualize this. I know that's my part. So we need to contextualize this in a way that it hasn't. All right. All this involves how to sit through this period of time where the past is dissolving, yet the future hasn't fully arrived. That's the thing to be aware of. And when I say the past is dissolving, of course, as Willow Grace just said, it includes the past within you, your internal aspects of the overall past, not just the collective. And that's why it's been so hard. That's why I was doing the 5 archways like literally 3 times a week throughout May, June, July, August. Then mid to late August, I was able to step it down to once a week. Okay. Now I just do it once a week throughout late August and September. And by the way, I do it walking around the block. Thankfully, I've got a quiet neighborhood. You can actually do it walking around in a relaxed way. You think that'll be a bit strange, but it actually works well because it kind of occupies the left hemisphere brain on, the external and putting one foot throughout the other and the actual walking process, where it sort of books it out or keeps it busy enough to where the right hemisphere brain can sort of take over and just do without thinking. And also the left and right forward motion of your feet, of your legs, at the same time balances your brain hemisphere. So for those of you who have trouble sitting down because it's so intense, whether you end up falling asleep from fatigue or whether it's anxiety or anything like that, or you just got ADD off the charts, stick your headphones on, grab your phone, have it on airplane mode, and walk around your neighborhood or a park if your neighborhood is not quiet enough, and give it a go. It does work, certainly for me, but of course we all have our own ways of doing things. But have a go. It really does a lot. Because walking alone does a fair bit. Many of you know that. All right, we're almost at the top of the hour. Let's finish off with, I want to pay special respect to JP. Army guy, built, like a machine, it seems. Pretty heavily built guy, tough guy, courageous guy. And rest assured, you really get targeted if you're a public figure or in any kind of leadership role when it comes to planetary liberation. And I went into details about that in the last email just before this show. Today being September 19th, 2025. Okay. Emery Smith said it well. There you go. As to how and why it all just caught up with JP and he couldn't keep it together anymore and just broke down on camera. And this is a direct quote from Emery because, as far as I'm concerned, he said it better than me. And it's a beautiful way to finish this episode of Ground Crew Command. He said, it's a huge sacrifice, the public and or leadership role where you really commit. It's a huge sacrifice, and it has been a huge sacrifice. It's very, very difficult. It's the most stressful thing I've ever endured. Even through everything I've been through in the military and war and life itself, this is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And for JP too, it's so taxing. You have to be on your game 24/7. There's no rest. And, it's what we want. We chose to do this. I'm not going anywhere. JP's definitely not going anywhere, but it is taxing. And God bless you, JP, for, coming forward and coming on the team like this, because we need more people like you. And I want to assure you that mission that I just said, it has already happened. And we just got to finish it, though. Unquote. So, well done, Emery. And, that wraps up today's show. And of course, do leave a comment on whatever social media platform you're listening this to or on, because we didn't have that luxury when we used to be on Blog Talk Radio. I don't think there was anywhere to comment, or at least not in a user-friendly way that would get attention. But on the social media platforms, yeah, the comments are just below, and people read through them. So go ahead and leave a comment because I want to hear from you about what you think about the things that have been revealed to you on this huge episode of Ground Crew Commander Radio. I will go through the comments, partly to also make sure you're being heard, to make sure I'm doing a good job of uplifting, empowering, and inspiring you. Constructive criticism of a clinical, balanced nature is also welcomed. But tell me what you think. Leave a comment below. And that's another great show of Ground Crew Command Radio. This is your loving servant, the Unknown Light Warrior. Pay close attention. If you're not on, to get the notifications and the live broadcast links, including for your time zone, for the coming solar eclipse mass meditation and the equinox 144K mass meditation the following day. I mean, we rarely do back-to-back mass meditations, but this is just nuts what's going on. It's just too profound and too highly opportunistic in the most positive way. Like, it really is a gateway, beginning and ending kind of situation. To get those notifications and links, go to 144K, the letter K, armyoflight.org, and just join there. It's free. Okay, the mass meditations are free. This show is obviously free. And go ahead and join to build the army of light, because obviously the more meditators, the bigger the impact. Okay, even though we do brilliant psychic surgery stuff, type mass meditations, which helps make up for any low participation rates, still, the more the merrier. The more we raise the timelines, the frequencies, to get to that planetary freedom and galactic return, reintegration, and back to our galactic family way sooner, way smoother, through compounding timeline upgrades through these specialized 144K advanced mass meditations. So go to 144K armyoflight.org and join and be on the notification list. And let's make this happen. Planetary liberation now. This is your loving servant, the Unknown Light Warrior. You've been listening to Ground Crew Command Radio.